My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you pardon for my sins and the grace to make these moments of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. St. Luke begins the Gospel reading we discover today in a curiously vague way. It happened, he says, that while Jesus was in a certain place praying, and he's almost toying with us when he says, in a certain place. He didn't even need to mention the place. He could have just said, for example, Jesus was praying, and that would have been fine. But this vagueness invites us into the breadth of Jesus' life. Where was he? In the passage just before, he was at Bethany, in Martha's house. Was he still there? Or in the orchard out the back of that country home? Or was this something already far from Bethany? At other times we know that Jesus got up and looked for a quiet and lonely place to pray. And maybe this was one of those, near the lakeside or more easily on a mountainside. I can see you in all those contexts, Jesus. I can see you finding space for prayer anywhere and turning everywhere into a space for prayer. Whether in Martha's house or on the mountainside, it doesn't matter. The more that I contemplate you praying, Jesus, it doesn't matter where I see you. I see only one thing. I only see you. I mean that in two ways. I'm so used to the idea that you would find a deserted and lonely place to pray that even while you prayed in the presence of your disciples, I see only you. You, in your prayer, become the center of everything. I see you alone with your Father, and that's the second way. I'm drawn in by that mysterious depth that was inaccessible to the eyes, not just to the eyes of my imagination, but to the eyes of those even who witnessed you then and there. What it would have been like to watch you pray. I'm envious of the apostles, in a sense. I can see them looking at you, alone, in your prayer. No matter where, in the solitude of that intimate conversation between Father and Son. I wonder, Lord, how long you were there. 10 minutes? Or 2 hours? Who knows? But I contemplate your disciples there, looking at you. I can imagine that they would have even felt scared to move too loudly, for fear of interrupting that sacred conversation they were witnessing, even if witnessing only from the outside. Witnessing while wondering what it was like to pray like that. What did they think as they watched you? How much they must have wished, burned, ardently longed to have the same dialogue with God as they saw manifesting in you. So it makes perfect sense to me that when you finish praying, one of your disciples asks you, Lord, teach us to pray. Who wouldn't want to learn that prayer after witnessing it? And I think of you with the depth of that conversation you've just lived, still vibrant and life-giving to your heart and your mind. I can see the minutes or even hours of prayer still fresh and filling your vision, and that gives all the more meaning when I hear your answer to that providential disciple, and the intimate communion of conversation which fills your spirit comes out in the response that we know too well, and yet fail to know at all. Father, May your name be held holy, your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, for we ourselves forgive each one who is in debt to us. And do not put us to the test. It's true that we know this prayer too well, and we don't know it at all. For us, the Our Father is just one of those things that we learnt by rote, most of us at the earliest age. It was probably already in the realm of muscle memory before the words were properly understood. But we don't know it at all, inasmuch as it remains a recitation whose words flow forth with the same effortlessness as one's breath, while the spirit that first put forward those words remains a relationship seemingly undiscovered and unlived. Our Fathers all too often are words we know too well, which speak of what we hardly have begun to know. Jesus, when I contemplate the way that these words seem to distill that conversation between you and the Father, that they weren't a nice composition, but the overflow of everything you experienced in your relationship with the Father, not something learnt by rote, but something lived and loved, so much that it gushed forth as the essence of your relationship within the divine. When I contemplate the Our Father like that, I also want to enter into that relationship like you. Just like that blessed apostle who then asked you for the grace of us all as he watched you and longed for the same. Lord, teach us to pray. I see your prayer, Lord, being something of the same way a friend of mine was when he got married. I don't mean the preparations, nor reception, nor even the facts and details of the ceremony itself. Truth be told, I was there at the ceremony, but I couldn't see much. I wasn't a priest then, and had just found myself a very discreet seat somewhere down the back. Everything was going according to plan, and, in my very detached way, that was about where the importance of it finished. Function performed. Sure enough, the time for the vows came, and still everything went according to plan. While I sat there, dutifully content, and still utterly emotionally uninvolved with the event. Don't get me wrong, I really liked my friend, but it just wasn't the kind of thing that moved me to tears. Not like it seemed to move some of the women further down the pew on which I sat. For me, everything according to plan. All good, function performed, complete success, and nothing more than that. So I thought. And then I learned something. The recessional began, and I saw my friend walking back down the aisle with his now wife, arm in arm, and his face was radiant, like I'd never seen him before. The transformation that had come over him was not just a function performed. You could see that he was living it in every part of his being. It was life-defining in the most positive sense. I was dumbfounded as I looked at his face and couldn't stop marveling at what I saw. Well, I don't think he stopped marveling for much longer than me. And that, Lord, is something of the way I see your prayer. Maybe not with the singular intensity of that person's wedding day, but that when you prayed, it must surely have deepened this relationship that defined not only your life, but who you are, the eternal you. Lord, teach us to pray like that, in a way that makes a reality of the relationship that will define us for eternity. Teach us how we can take not just the words, but the spirit of the Our Father, Or perhaps, more to the point, teach us how to live out the Our Father as our relationship with the Father, so that our lives also will find there the spirit of this intimate prayer, this profound relationship between God, Father Almighty, and his beloved Son, the child he loves and who loves him back. It's true, I know that our prayer won't be exactly like yours, but even then, when you gave us the Our Father, I know you were teaching us to pray as we are, not as you are. You didn't need to ask the Father for forgiveness, for example, but being the beloved Son, you knew how a child of God could ask for that. In short, you must have known how to make your prayer ours. If this prayer really is for us to live and not merely to say, help us to build a relationship with the Father in everything you taught us here. When that disciple asked you, Lord, teach us to pray. We can ask our Mother, the Virgin Mary, to teach us alongside her Son. Mary, help of Christians, help us. Help us to discover everything that your Son wants us to, in the prayer that he brought forth from his own. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this time of prayer. I ask your assistance in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.